Hello and welcome to the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast for November 13th, 2024, episode 322. Stand-up comedian, actor, improviser, and dreamer, Paul Green coming to you, sharing my journey, my thoughts and insights on what it means and what it takes to pursue a dream in the hopes that perhaps it might provide some insight to others. Well, it is a long week for me. I am currently performing in a sketch comedy play called Patent Pending. Well, that's the name of the group anyway. And we have been working for about 3 months on a sketch comedy show. And showtime is this weekend. We have a show Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So very excited to finally be putting this show on. So much work has gone into it. It's really like putting on a play. It is so much work. There's maybe about 8 or so sketches, and turns out I'll actually be doing some stand-up as one of sort of the interludes in between the sketches. So it has been just a crazy week. We are in the middle of Tech Week, so we have been doing long rehearsals every night, trying to get all of the lighting cues and the sound cues, and tonight was the first time we actually ran the show top to bottom with costumes and with props. And one of the main cast members couldn't be there tonight, so we've never actually ran the show top to bottom with everybody. And from the sound of it, I think the first time that'll happen is tomorrow night. A night before the show will be our dress rehearsal. And interestingly enough, I can't be there on time because I will be doing some time at JP's Comedy Club tomorrow night, which will probably be tonight by the time this actually gets released. So I will be doing a feature set at JP's and then hopping in the car and then heading out to the theater up in Scottsdale and then doing a dress rehearsal in preparation for this weekend. So it's a lot. It's a lot. And man, it's really interesting doing this project, and the people who put it on, it's all independent. It's just a couple of people who just love comedy and love writing just got together. They don't have any backing. They're not associated with a school or a theater company or a studio or anything. It's literally just a handful of people who said, hey, let's get together and produce a sketch comedy show. And they wrote all these sketches and found actors and then booked a venue, and they don't really make any money, so it's just kind of this tight budget. I don't even know where the money came from to put it on in the first place. And so much work has gone into putting this show on, and then at the end of the day, you hope it's funny. It seems funny in rehearsal, but you never know until you get a crowd of strangers, to watch it. And so hopefully it goes well on opening night, which will be Friday. And Friday at, it's called Desert Stages Theater, which happens to be inside Fashion Square Mall up in Scottsdale. I had no idea this theater was even there, but you're actually like in the mall, and it's like, a store in the mall is this performance theater, and they have a couple theaters. They have a kind of their main stage, and then we're in sort of their secondary black box theater. Seats about 50. So it's been a really cool experience. I've told the story a couple times about how I even, ended up doing this very randomly. I had just responded to a random casting notice that I got in my inbox and went to an audition and got booked, and now I've been involved with this for about 3 months, and it's been a fun experience, been a challenging experience. I don't get to do much theater, and I do enjoy learning lines and memorizing a character and really honing in on a comedic timing of a sketch, and it's fun. It is a fun experience. I did some theater when I lived in LA. I did a Shakespeare play. I had the lead in Much Ado About Nothing. I got to play Benedict for a small Shakespearean theater company. And immediately following that, I did the complete works of William Shakespeare with another theater company that was really fun. And I did a couple indie plays for what's it called? There's this big theater festival every year in Los Angeles, and the name of it has escaped me. I can't believe I can't think of it. But for like 2 weeks in, I think it's like maybe March in LA, there's this long indie theater festival, and like 8 or 10 of these small black box theaters all in Los Angeles all participate, and dozens and dozens of independent directors and producers and writers can create a one-act play, and produce it and debut it at this festival. Oh my gosh, how come I cannot think of what the name of it is? Oh, that's going to drive me nuts that I can't think of the name of this festival. But anyway, so I participated in this festival for a couple years. I saw, a handful of productions, and then the complete works of William Shakespeare we also did at this festival, which again was very, very fun. But I don't get to do a whole lot of more traditional theater, and I spend most of my time doing stand up and a little bit of improv, although I'm not even doing much improv. I'm really focusing predominantly on my stand-up comedy, and then the midlife crisis comedy show, which is almost entirely improvised. So the Fringe Festival. It's called the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Ha! I knew it would come to me. Okay, I'm not going to lie. I actually paused the podcast and went and Googled it because it was driving me nuts. So the Fringe Festival is the festival of independently produced one-act plays, which I participated in for a couple of years. And then, I did that Shakespeare play. But other than that, it's just been fun getting back into a more traditional theater and a sketch comedy. And I've never really done, I'm trying to think if I've ever done a sketch comedy show like this. When I lived in LA, I actually was a music director for a sketch comedy troupe that performed at IO West in Hollywood, but I didn't actually act that much. I was the music director, so I would write songs for our performances or do underscoring, that sort of stuff. But I didn't really get to do much acting. So again, I'm having so much fun getting an opportunity to do comedic acting. I play several different characters throughout the night, and they actually asked me to do some stand-up, as I mentioned. So that's all going on this weekend. So with that, while I was leaving rehearsal tonight, I was I clicked into the good old YouTube app on my phone, and YouTube is always, recommending different videos to watch. And I randomly found this video of a guy who I've never heard of or never seen before, and he was being interviewed on Lewis Howes' podcast, and Lewis Howes' podcast is called The School of Greatness. And I'm a big fan of Lewis Howes, and I like the conversations he has and the people that he has on his podcast. I had seen his Dr. Joe Dispenza interview a couple weeks ago. I think I talked about that on one of my podcasts. But today, he was talking to a guy. Matter of fact, I should go find that guy's name real quick. All right, the guy's name is David Guillaume, I think. I don't quite know how to pronounce that. It's spelled a little funny, like Gyaihim or something like that. Or Gyhaim, something like that. David Guillaume. So I started watching this interview with him, and I thought I would commentate on that. I know I've been commenting on a book called Mind Magic, and I've been enjoying that book, but I found this conversation really interesting. And so this David Guillaume fella is, he considers himself sort of a spiritual leader, and he's into spirituality, and he was talking a lot about this idea of manifestation. And manifestation is something that I've touched on a lot through my podcast, because it's something that I've tried to understand and tried to find a pathway to believe in it in a manner that doesn't make me feel like I'm being delusional, I guess. Yeah, that's a whole other thread. I don't even want to open up that can right now. So let's just talk about David Guillaume. So he's talking about manifestation, and I got a little bit of his backstory. I haven't listened to the whole interview yet because I only was able to listen to about 20 minutes of it before getting home and starting the podcast. But he talked about something that I found very interesting and I think was very significant for me to hear, because it really made me start to look at some things about how I'm pursuing my dream. And so, yeah, I thought I would share that and do my best to sort of reconvey his words. But if you want to hear the whole interview from the horse's mouth, just go to Lewis Howes School of Greatness and David Guillaume, and I'm sure you can find the video, no problem. Lewis Howes has a pretty big following. So, but what he started talking about was this idea of having a contradiction of beliefs. And I've talked about beliefs a handful of times in the last couple of weeks, so I thought this was very apropos in context of what my mind has been starting to really grapple with and consider. And he was talking about how when we want to manifest something in our lives, if it is not showing up, it is most likely because we have some sort of counter-limiting belief that would actually make it impossible for that thing to show up, because this limiting belief is overriding our belief that says that we want it or believes that we can have it. He gave one example of one of his clients. So he does coaching. He's kind of like a life coach guy. And you get the impression that he's been very successful and that he's coached some pretty high-end clients. But he mentions that he was coaching this business owner, and she was talking about how she can't ever really seem to get her business past the $5 million in revenue mark. And so he starts talking to her, and then he just says, "What is your least favorite thing about running your business?" And she said, "Managing employees." And then she just started to talk about her sort of disdain for having to manage employees and how hard they are, and, how it's so hard to hire somebody, and, and then they want to take sick days, and, and then, they don't work hard or they make mistakes, right? So she has this very bitter, negative belief system about employees. And then he just said, oh, so if your revenue increased past $5 million, what would that mean for your business? She's like, well, that means I would need to expand and hire more people. And he goes, so if you hate hiring employees, then in the back of your mind, you know that if you actually hit that revenue mark of $5 million, it's going to mean more employees, which means that counter or limiting belief is actually going to cause you to sabotage your own business from accomplishing that benchmark, because that benchmark will actually mean, sure, you have the $5 million, but now you also have a lot more of what you hate, which is managing employees, right? So you can totally see the pattern there. Like, he described it as you're putting on the gas pedal and the brake on your car at the same time, right? The gas pedal is like, oh, I'm going to get $5 million of revenue, but then the brake says, well, that means you're going to have to hire more employees. Let's put the brakes on, right? So that analogy or that example that he gave, and that sort of philosophy really started to get me thinking. I'm going, oh, okay. So, I claim to have these dreams and I have these beliefs in my dreams. However, am I doing this same thing? Is there something that I believe about what this dream would mean that is also causing me to put the brakes on? And I started to think of some. And I started going, oh, yeah, well, one of my dreams is to get a big break on a sitcom. And I was going, oh, okay, well, what would that mean? Well, if I get a big break on a sitcom, that would probably mean that I either need to move back to LA or move to New York. And so then I really had to think to myself, do I want to move to New York? Do I want to move back to LA? Right? And so I started to really think about that. I'm going, well, I actually really love where I live. I love my life in Arizona. So getting that big break would require sacrificing many things that I really love about living in Arizona. So, right. So I didn't really make any final conclusions. I was just starting to just do this as an exercise. To just ask myself, well, I say I want this big break, or I say I want this, this dream of being a performer, but what else would that mean? I started to think about traveling. It's like, I would love to be in a position to where I could tour America with my comedy show and sell out venues across the country. That's something that I've said. But then I've had to think of myself like, well, do I really want to be on the road that much? You know what I mean? And leave, my, spend that much time away from my friends and my family and my relationships, and, so it's something that it just gave me some pause. It just gave me some okay, good to know that this is something that I probably need to be more cognizant and deliberate in what it is that I'm manifesting or what it is that I'm saying that I want, but do I have these sort of counter-limiting beliefs that are actually causing me to sabotage my own desires or what I'm claiming my own desires are? So, for whatever that's worth, everybody out there in internet land, what is it that you are seeking? What dreams are you pursuing? But have you taken the time to really look at everything else that you believe regarding that dream? And is there something that is going to create that gas pedal and break at the same time effect, because I can definitely say that has happened to me, throughout my pursuit of this dream, to where I was saying I want one thing, pushing the gas pedal, but then also realizing that I had limiting and counter beliefs that were causing me to push the brake pedal. But anyway, this guy pretty much says, once you take the brake off, and once you really truly believe that you deserve it, and that you are able to match your soul and your psyche to be even with what it is that you're seeking, then it'll come naturally and easy. It'll just come into your life. So we'll see, everybody. All right, so that is it for today. I hope you are all doing fantastic. Your dreams are coming true. You're finding joy, inspiration, and fulfillment in your journey. This is the Paul Green Comedy Podcast for November 13th, 2024, episode 322. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you tomorrow.